All right, hello once again, Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and as part of the Rankin Technical College AWD1000 Web Development Technology class, I'm doing a series of video presentations based on one of the textbooks for the class, that being Murock's JavaScript and jQuery, 4th edition. We're up to Chapter 6, and I'm partway through looking at the different stuff for the DOM. We're in the section on how to script forms and controls. All right. Property of a text box, text area, or select object. Well, that's the thing. So if it's a select object, it's whatever one you selected. If it's a text box or it's a text area, it's whatever text you put into it. Here's some examples. So here's the JavaScript code as it says to grab those, and you'll notice that in each case, you're grabbing the value. I can't say to you too many times, though, that there are always a multiple number of ways for you to do this. All right, there's always a multiple number of ways for you to do this. And you basically should try to do things in more than one way, because you're probably going to find with some of those ways of doing things are going to make a lot of sense to you, and other things that you do probably won't make so much sense to you. So you should work on that and try to figure out the ones that to you make the most sense. Okay? All right. So here is where we are copying all the stuff over into local variables. And here is where we are setting it back to the empty string. All right, radio boxes and checkboxes are used in a very similar manner. Remember, the difference between them is that a radio button is a mutually exclusive option. So for instance, if you had something in there like gender, and you could only have, let's just say, for lack of argument, male, female, that would be an example. On the other hand, with a checkbox, typically with a checkbox, you can have, so if you've got 3 checkboxes, you can have 0, 1, 2, or all 3 checked. So maybe you had a form where you were asking a person, what shift do you prefer to work? You know, and you might have first shift, second shift, third shift, and they could leave it blank if they didn't care, type of an idea. And they both those have value and they have checked. So you'll notice there's the radio buttons and there's the checkbox. All right, and here's where you're checking, no pun intended, you're checking the checked. All right, and if, you know, basically what you're doing is you're setting a local variable equal to that value if indeed it is checked. And here you're setting it back, so it's not checked. All right, when you work with forms, this should be almost second nature to you, that there's 2 basic things that you can do with forms. You can submit them, you can reset them. All right, so again, forms have 2 big things associated with them. They have a submit event, so when you click the submit button, and a reset event when you click the reset button. Now, it's not that they can't have more than that, all right? But those are the ones that you're going to see most often. Focus we've talked about already. So remember, let's see, do we have anything in here? No. All right, but let's see. I'll just throw something up there that I've been working on. So let's see. All right, so if this is my contact form, all right, maybe a little ugly, but you get the idea. And if I'm in here, as soon as I click there, okay, now a focus event happened. So I put in Jeff. After I put in Jeff, I hit the tab key. That moves me to the email field. And 2 things actually happened there. All right, a blur event happened first, in the name field, and then a focus event happened in the email field. So if I do the same kind of thing in here, and I tab again, the same kind of thing happened. A blur event happened in the email field, and a focus event happened in the message field. Great form. Now this isn't going to do anything because I haven't told it to. All right. But hopefully at least you get the idea. Some common control events, same kinds of things. Click is probably the most common. There are, buttons for example, in Visual Studio. I don't believe buttons even have a double click event anymore. They used to, but people would sometimes either maliciously or accidentally put code that should go into a click event. They put it into a double click event. And the bad thing about doing that is what would happen then is people would click something and nothing would happen. They'd click it again and nothing would happen. They'd keep clicking it. Then eventually, probably accidentally, they would double click it and something would happen. Then they'd start to go through the whole shebang all over again. All right. So as it says, here's how you can call the reset method for a form and the submit method for a form. An event handler for the change event. Why does this matter? Well, going back to the example that I showed you before with that contact form, it is literally possible that you can programmatically, let's say that you've got a field that is a required field and the person is in there and they tab off and they go to another field. You can check in the blur event, and if they haven't put anything in there, you can reset the focus event so they come right back to where they just were. All right, as an example. There's a double click. All right, so what do we have here? A DOM content loaded event handler that attaches to other handlers. So again, when it's loaded, what are we saying? Add that event listener to here, add a double click listener to here, and set the focus here. So we're having multiple things happen once the DOM has been loaded. Good example right here of form validation. And again, there are multiple ways of doing this. But you'll notice required here. You oftentimes do that not just with a country, but sometimes with a state. You'll have like select a state, please select a state or whatever. And the other thing that you can do is you can come in with, I think it's selected, and you can default a country or default a state. All right. Here, if none of these were selected, now again, you quite often will check one by default. And as soon as you check one will always be checked. All right, here, as it says, this box must be checked. You get the idea as you start working your way through here. So here's the associated HTML. And then here's the JavaScript. Much of the stuff that's in here is fairly, now this is my opinion, self-explanatory. All right, so what are we doing here? We're setting up, we're telling you to find the email address, the phone, the country, and the terms. We're setting them to variables of the same name. If there's nothing in there, you set the next sibling. So you set that what currently has the asterisk there to the field is required type of an idea. The box must be checked, etc. All right. When you reset the form, what are we doing? We're setting every required field, we're setting that asterisk back. And if it's not a required field, won't have an asterisk. And then finally, if we want something to have the cursor in it, we'll set the focus. We can do anything we want to do when the DOM content is loaded too. You can even give the user a message saying that the DOM has been loaded. The problem is with many people, I mean, if it's an end user, they won't have a clue as to what the DOM is anyway. But you could give them a message that says, you know, you could even bring an alert up when that came up that said something along the lines of, hey, you know, the form is now ready for you to work on it, and the fields with an asterisk are required. Now, sometimes you'll just put a message up in your H1 or whatever your tag is, or, you know, something that says asterisk equals required or whatever. All right, there's creating an element and creating a node. Now, what's the difference? Well, typically, when you create an element, you're going to put that into the DOM, and when you create a text node like this, you're going to put some text into that element you just created. Append child, insert before. So if you want to put something on a page and you want to programmatically be able to figure out where you want it put. Replace child, again, like a search and replace feature. Remove a child, all right. So as it says, a button that adds a new paragraph element to the DOM. So before it's clicked and after it's clicked. So they've added this in here. So they created this, all right, and then they said they wanted to insert this middle paragraph before the last one. All right. Updated register account. Look at the difference here. All right. I used to teach a class in ASP.NET we used to have in the program. And it was always, did you want to put your form validation stuff off to the side? Or did you want to put everything together on the top? Or you could even put everything together on the bottom. Here they're putting it on the top. Now you may look and say that that looks cleaner than this did. Right there. Or you may like that one, you know, you might like that one better or worse. All right. And then they show you how you set it up. Again, we could have made these bold, for example. They're not, but you understand. That's it. All right, so we've now finished with Chapter 6. So next, we are going to go into, here's a surprise, Chapter 7. How to work with images and timers. There's only 21 slides, so my guess is that we will be able to do this in probably just one video. All right, and I'll be back with that shortly.